and they're very technical. So I tell students to, play a video, pause it as they need to so they can perform an action, rewind it, play it at half the speed or twice the speed if they're getting bored. And that's worked out traditionally pretty well. The challenge in this situation, of course, is that we had students who had to go home very quickly, and a good chunk of them don't have computers, or they have tablets that can't support the software that I'm teaching. So what I basically spent this sort of last week doing was revising assignments so that I still have the original digital assignments for the students who do have the technology, but I have alternate versions of those assignments that still get at core concepts that we're exploring, but they're basically going to be on paper with whatever materials they happen to have around. Especially with lockdown now, a lot of students won't be able to get studio art supply stores, so it's going to be even more an exercise in creative problem solving. And I've actually found that's sort of helpful for them. Some other changes that I made actually just today and yesterday is I'm making all future grades pass-fail, which is a little risky, and I spent a lot of time talking to some of my colleagues about it, but I've decided that's the most ethical way to approach this. Part of that is because of the digital divide that exists in my classes. And part of it is that I realized there's a good chunk of students in these classes who need stability, they need emotional and probably psychological support. So a lot of my interactions with them are about, referring them to CAPS, the Center for, I'm blanking on the name. It's Psychological Services for Students. And just checking them. So I'm doing everything asynchronously, but I am having 2 half-hour blocks a week where students can come online and talk to me, ask any questions they have about assignments. But for the most part, what it's been is students who just need a little bit of emotional support or sort of a little extra, you can do it kind of thing. Let's see, there was one other change that I made. It'll come back to me later, but that's kind of what I'm doing with my courses right now. Obviously, depending on what the state does, this could change by Friday. But my goal with this is to let these studio art courses really be a force of stability in their lives right now, and hopefully comfort. And also, hopefully, these assignments can be a way for them to feel creatively connected. Oh, right. So the other thing in my animation class, typically our last animation is a text animation. And so for this one, I've basically grabbed a bunch of facts from the CDC, mostly about how to care for people when they're sick in a safe way. And they can, I've broken it up into blocks. They can take a block and do a text animation of that block. And for the students who don't have technology, they can do a poster design or do another creative work based off of that recommendation from the CDC. So try to keep the relevance of art, really, really clear in the course. Some of the students said they like that. We'll see what happens. All right, Lisa, how about you?
Okay, so I'm an Africanist art historian, and I teach mostly lecture and discussion-based courses. So it's not so much the hands-on demo-based teaching. And because I'm an Africanist, I go to Africa. And so the thing that I study, my research area, is performance that occurs in the spring. So I, half the time, go to West Africa for some portion of the semester, maybe every other year or so. So because of that, I have modified my spring classes, and in fact, even some of my fall classes, at the very least to have exams online, so that exams are consistent. The first exam is like the second exam is like the final. It's the same format. They access everything online, so that nothing switches when I'm not face-to-face present for them. So when I've done that, I have typically, because my internet connection in West Africa is not amazing, there's no Wi-Fi and I don't have Ethernet, I hotspot with my phone, I don't do synchronous teaching. So I do discussion board-based things, and I upload videos of me essentially lecturing over the PowerPoints, and then we do discussion online. Every once in a while I've tried to do one live session with my students, which has always just been a technological nightmare, mostly on my end, right? So for me, transferring my classes that I'm teaching in the spring, thankfully, online has not been horrible. They already took their first exam online. So I'm trying right now to do synchronous teaching, and I'm using conferences, which is the sort of user-friendly version of WebEx on Canvas. And I am doing that because you can, as we're doing now, record the session and it appears automatically. They can share their notes. And I like that function because then they can ask me questions on the fly and then have a discussion if they so choose, right? And then if a student can't access it or if they don't have the bandwidth right there, they can watch it at 4 o'clock in the morning and still get the benefit of the conversation even if they didn't get to participate, right? What I found is that most of the students, actually all of the students want that. I'm trying to offer some amount of continuity with many, many exceptions for students who don't have access. So my classes have participation as a grade. And so for students who can't access synchronously, I've been telling them that they can watch the video and then post something relevant to that week's videos on the discussion board, and that's their participation credit. I know that they watched the thing and they're participating and engaging in the class, and other students can engage on the discussion board. So that's been my solution. I realized this week that I have maybe 3 students in a class of 52 that are having severe audio problems. So I might end up going back to just uploading videos, which I don't want to do, but I also don't want to leave those students behind. So I'm trying to be really flexible about how I go about this online teaching in a moment of crisis, right? Not just because I'm in West Africa, but because everybody's having a moment, right? So I can help with those kinds of things, but as I said earlier, Heather's a bit more tech-oriented.
Yeah.
Okay. So go ahead, Heather.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, when we discussed it, we're not so much interested in presenting our ideas to you and having you passively take them in, but CTL has so many great resources. We feel like we're live people who can talk to you. So if you are having difficulties or you have questions about how to go about either modifying assignments or posting things or figuring out how to approach a particular lesson, those are the kinds of things that we can brainstorm together and help you try and answer. So if you're having difficulties or if you have questions about things that you potentially want to do or maybe you're not sure if it would work, that's more what we hope we can be here for.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that too, I also have been using conferences, which Lisa mentioned, and which is directly in Canvas, and that's worked out pretty, fine. I also have had a few students with some audio issues, but for the most part, it's been okay. And for my video lectures, I have a Mac, so I just use QuickTime, and I capture the whole screen recording. I save it as a 720p file so that it's not giant, and then I upload it to YouTube and link it that way. So that way, I'm sure that the students who have are doing it on their phone aren't trying to battle through Canvas to get to a video. They can go straight to a video link. The other thing I would say is that it's really easy to feel locked into what it is you're supposed to be teaching, especially if you're lower level courses where the skills you're teaching are prerequisites for other classes. You have to allow yourself to let that go. I think that's really important. In our curriculum, Lisa, don't break the computer. In our curriculum, the animation class that I teach is the only animation class that's offered. You know, there are all these graphic designers who want to be able to do motion graphics for their BFA portfolio. With text animation, those kids who don't have a computer are not going to have that experience. And I've been talking with them about, well, what that looks like, how can they make this up? And it's important to make sure that they know how to get that information even after the semester is ended in some way, shape, or form. So my role at this point, or I see my role at this point, is a way to, I'm there to help them make sure that whatever information they want to get in a normal context, they can get that, even if they can't get it right now. So I think one thing I've gathered from talking to different colleagues is that they feel so overwhelmed all they can kind of see is what they can't do. And I would say, let those things go and just be okay with that. You know, I mean, this is the time you practice meditation and yoga, right? And then try to change that problem, look at it at a 45-degree different angle and say, okay, what can I do? So anyway, with that, I would say, what questions do you guys have? We've solved all the problems.
Unlikely. So Enoch is asking you to use the raise your hand function, which is the little hand button. If that's not working for you, if you can't find it, just use the public chat, I guess.
And I guess we can also unmute people too, in case they just want to ask.
Oh, yeah.
Right, yeah. Okay, wait, let me see.
Jamie's trying to chat, so unmute Jamie.
Okay.
BFA Portfolio shows?
Yeah. So have you guys already been talking about moving that online?
We WebEx tomorrow on that. But
yeah.
I have 10 students. We were going to show in the union, and now we're going to show in the cloud somewhere.
Yeah.
What do you?
I can't remember if I mentioned this to you or not. But what I would recommend to them, most of them are familiar with Wix, and even if not all of them are, at least one person in that group of 10 will be. I would recommend that they make a Wix site for their BFA portfolio and make that their project. They need to work together to learn how to get their images up online in Wix, and then it becomes a design challenge on how you lay that out and organize that. I think that would be really kind of, in a lot of ways, that's something I think about this with the digital media team, but you're making them do that anyway. So that could be a really good thing for them. But I would take that as one of those pre-professional challenges that they get to solve themselves. And if they're using Wix, they're not going to have to get coding or anything like that. It'll look good. That would be my suggestion.
How do you get attendees?
Yeah, so, and there you get into social media. So most of our kids have Instagram accounts, TikTok, you know, who's your thing. Nobody has Facebook anymore. But have them promote the show on the social media sites, and if they're all plugging it, they come up with that poster, you know, for the show and make that into a square format to work on Instagram. If they're all plugging it, you know, and say, hey, we're going to have the opening at this time. The students could then live feed on Instagram. And again, those are things that you don't need to know how to do. That's something they should learn how to do. And a lot of them already do. So I think that would be really good for an opening. They just need to make sure that they start.
Do you think it would work for a panel discussion?
That's a really good question. Not through Instagram, to my knowledge. They could do like a WebEx or a Zoom panel and then have a link. Yeah, that would work.
Although WebEx wouldn't that require a password, you might have to try like Zoom or Google Meets or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. With Zoom, I guess you need to have somebody would have to pay for an account and have more than 5 people. Yeah, and WebEx you need an invite, but there should still be a URL invite so that when they make that WebEx meeting time, they can just push that on the website and on their social media accounts. I don't know, like I'm sure it's possible to have too many people and have it crash it, but yeah, that's good. I mean, if they're seeing the show. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, sure.
It looks like Jules has a question.
Actually, I had a comment. Zoom right now has, if you sign up with a .edu account, so anyone who has a uncc.edu account, if you sign up for a Zoom account right now, they have lifted the cap on how many people can be in your Zoom room to 100, and they have lifted the 40-minute time limit as well. So if you wanted to use Zoom for a panel discussion, someone would just have to create an account with a UNC Charlotte email address, and you'll be able to get those additional benefits for free.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, then that would probably be, I've had good luck with Zoom so far, so I would recommend that. Yeah. Thanks, Jules.
I have a question. This is Kiran. I'm noticing that many websites have posted, like CNN and others, that a lot of Shakespearean plays, museum tours, aquariums, novels, art galleries, they're online, available for viewing. Really, it's for maybe for general viewing. But how would you, or what ideas would you suggest to integrate some of these now available options temporarily into some of the projects or assessments in the arts?
Right. I was actually just talking with one of our lecturers about this just the other day. Yeah, it's anytime you don't have to create new content right now instantly, just to buy yourself some time so you can make the content that's most critical. Go ahead and use those resources. So Art21 has had a lot of their videos online for a long time, and a lot of people use them, and they're great.
I use those in class.
I know, I do too. I mean, they're great, kind of awesome. They're great. There's those. I think there's a bunch of museums that have like 3D models of their objects online, so you can like turn around the objects. I mean, they're not amazing, but they're still pretty good. I would say it's sort of like so when my students are trying to like come up with an idea, they want to like Google different things and try to have the internet solve their creative problems. And that can work a little bit, but I would say give yourself time limit. So when you're trying to figure out online stuff to show your students, figure out what it is you need them to learn. Search specifically for that and give yourself like max 20 or 30 minutes to hunt it down, because otherwise you can just end up down so many different rabbit holes. And I think we haven't really been talking about this, but I think it's really important for us as teachers to get away from the screen and get outside while we can, and give ourselves some breaks from this too. Goodness knows our students need that too. Start with the known resources. But if there's something really specific you need to teach, and there's just not that material that you can find, that's a good time to record that. And I would lobby for sharing that publicly too, because it might mean that there's other teachers who need that information and also struggling to find it. But that's a personal decision as an educator.
Yeah, and I would add that for those specific resources, that those resources offer different things. So sometimes the wording isn't particularly accurate. So you'll often see the terms like virtual tour when it's really more like an online exhibit. So an online exhibit would be something more like, here's an artwork where you can zoom in, right? Where a virtual tour should be where you walk through the space and get maybe a 360 view of an object, or you can see it from the side, as though more physically as though you were there. And those would sort of elicit different kinds of assignments. So lots of people have been linking to, Google Arts and Culture links that say things like virtual tour, and they're not virtual tours, they're really online exhibits where you can zoom in on particular objects, right? So I would, if you're trying to, all the things that Heather said, get it done as easily, as efficiently as possible. But if you're looking for something that mimics real life, like for instance, my husband teaches art appreciation, and they have an assignment where the students go to a museum. So he wanted to mimic that as best he could. So he was looking specifically for actual virtual tours where you could get a 360 view of an object or see the space that it's in and sort of look at what it's next to and what it's near, what the lighting situation is, all of those things, right? And so that, like, if that were your assignment, then you would look for things like virtual tours. And I know that the Vatican has that, the Sistine Chapel has that for sure. The Hermitage has that. A few other institutions do as well. But some of them, if you look at Google Arts and Culture, the British Museum has this really wowie-zowie sort of floor plan where they highlight works from their floor plan. And so like they made this whole other alternate universe, but it's still not a virtual tour because you're not seeing all the objects that are next to it. So I would look out for those kinds of things. But otherwise, I think those are, you know, great, useful resources. Yeah, and so you could do things like have a student look at an object, you know, virtually and see maybe things like, what are you missing, right? Like, what are the kinds of things that you can't see by zooming in that maybe you would otherwise get to see if you were in person? And I think that that would be particularly useful, although maybe particularly painful because we can't leave the house right now, some of us. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Those are really great asynchronous project or activity ideas.
Are there other questions? Or are you guys having problems with any particular aspect of teaching online? No? And it looks like we lost Heather. I don't know what happened to Heather. She seems to have disappeared. Keith, what about you?
Hello.
Hi, Keith.
Hey. What I find, well, since my classes are so specific as far as equipment and materials and that kind of stuff, it's been a little bit of a running in place kind of feeling for me. But I've been sort of mining the video libraries a lot, and have sort of picked the ones that I thought various groups would benefit the most from, and having them look at them and then email me a response paper. You know, I give them questions that they need, you know, those kind of things. And then I'm queuing up a longer term research paper. You know, hopefully, I canvassed the students to see if anyone could not work online, and I didn't get any feedback. So I'm assuming everybody has access. So I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not.
Is Canvas set up for your class? Or do they have access to it? It's open.
Yeah, we have a common assignment in 3D that's built into the Canvas theme that's for assessments and all that good stuff.
So one of the admin is having her students look at videos on Canopy, and she was finding that it didn't have all the films that she wanted. So our arts librarian, Jenna, who was going to be in on this meeting but couldn't make it, she can order things if they're available virtually through our subscriptions, okay? So that's another thing you can do if you want to expand the kinds of videos that you can assign to your students. You can contact Jenna, so that's an option. The other thing that she recommended was, let me look at her email, that Mecklenburg County, or maybe it's Charlotte students, hold on, let me look it up. She said that, hold on. She said, where did it go? Grief. She said that students could, Charlotte Mecklenburg. Okay, so students can register for a card online through Charlotte Mecklenburg Public Library. Of course, not all of our students are from Mecklenburg County, right, or live in Mecklenburg County. They might be in Goldsboro or something, right? But they can, I think, still use their UNCC addresses to get Charlotte Public Library cards. And they have access to movies that we don't, in fact, through our own subscriptions. So that would be another option. So they, even if they're in Raleigh or something, they can use their UNCC email address and or their whatever their Charlotte address is to get a Charlotte Public Library card.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, are there other questions before we close out? Oh, Jamie has his hand up. What you got, Jamie?
Yeah, oops, I'm gone.
No, you're there.
Just the screen is gone. But I'm still learning Canvas for the first time. I know it's embarrassing, but at least I don't still have my AOL account. But what would be your best go-to CTL or otherwise published resources for getting started? What I really want is to have my students be able to upload and comment on what they're doing on Canvas page.
That's easy. That's easy. You don't need anything special for that. So you would use the discussion board for that. So if you like want to direct them to look at something in particular, you can start a discussion board post and you can upload a video link, a URL, an image, a GIF, anything. You can embed that, and then they'll comment on it, like when you read the New York Times and there's a comment thread, and then you can reply to a particular comment. It's just like that. And so they can post their own. So you open it to them. They can post their own discussion board posts. So they would like post a picture of their work or work in progress. And then one of the sort of pedagogically sound things that you can do is sort of require students. So say you have to make your own post to the discussion board, say once a week. I don't know if that's too much for your class, to show their progress. And then each student has to comment on 2 or 3. And what that does is that means that every single post is going to get some kind of interaction. Nobody's going to be left languishing like that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and John Hairston showed me he was doing precisely that.
Okay. Heather, do you have any other tips for Jamie on that?
No, actually, I would suggest exactly the same thing, and that's what I've actually the entire semester, not every week now.
And do you have your students also comment on the other students' posts?
Yeah, and I do. I guide them a little bit with that. So especially for works in progress, actually more for critiques, what I'll do is I'll say you have to address, say, one conceptual strength, and then one formal strength.
Oh, good. Okay.
And, you know, I say these are the terms and the languages that we've been practicing, and you have to use that language to sort of to help your answer, basically.
Right.
So yeah, that works out pretty well. And some of them really get into it, and you do get a back and forth. Others just want to get it done.
Life. Okay. Well, we haven't heard from Ashley or Justin. Do you guys have any particular questions or problems that you're trying to address?
Hey, this is Justin. No, I'm okay. We're actually both with the classroom support, and we're just here to learn as well how you guys do so navigating so that we can better support you guys when you guys call us for help. So.
Gotcha. Okay. Is that the same for Ashley?
Yes, it is. Okay, there we go.
Cool.
Yeah, we're just trying to, like Justin was saying, a better understanding so we can better support, teachers if they have questions, how we can direct them and where to direct them in that sort of case.
Okay. Gotcha. Awesome. Okay. Well, in that case, does anybody else have any questions before we close this out? I think we're only supposed to go to 4:30, but I'm fine answering any more questions if you guys have them. No? Okay, cool. I think that's going to be it then, yeah? Enoch?
All right, thank you everybody. Thank you for joining us. Once again, the session recording will be available by tomorrow or so, and we'll send you the recorded archive. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, definitely ask questions to Heather and Lisa, and individually, and as well as the CTX staff. So I'm sure you can send us the help desk tickets, then we will follow up with you as soon as possible. And also, if you have an idea or questions like how do I do something, and how can we give a feedback, how can we have students engaged, feel free to ask questions, and also check out the workshops. Throughout this week, we have many workshops that can address your ideas and questions, so feel free to sign up and attend any of those sessions. Any questions, feel free to ask. And thank you for your participation today.
Thanks, and thanks CTL staff for everything you've been doing. I know it's got to be kind of wild time, so we appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.